Welcome back to our video series. We're in the middle of rebranding our business, taking it from Jolie Marketing to Mad Banana Marketing. We're taking you guys along the entire process. If you guys haven't seen the last few videos, we're breaking this rebrand into 3 different phases. Currently, we're still in phase 1, which is all of the prep work and strategy before Mad Banana becomes public to the public. So far in phase 1, we've covered our StoryBrand script, our StoryBrand roadmap tasks, our audience avatar, and our hedgehog concept. This is building the foundation of our messaging and narrowing our focus to really solidify everything for Mad Banana.
Today we're getting into the less glamorous but still super important stuff. We're talking about legalities, long-form content strategy, and one of our favorites, the website refresh, at least the start of it.
My favorite part. Hey, guess what? I like your striped sweater.
I like your striped sweater.
You know what they say. Best time to wear a striped sweater. What are you drinking today?
This is iced water in my Get Mad cup, but the sticker, I've used it quite a bit, so the sticker is starting to come off.
She's gonna bleeding everywhere.
I know, but
Bleeding.
I love her.
All right, let's start with legal stuff first. Specifically, our DBA, aka a doing business as or an assumed name. So quick backstory, when we first started our business, we opened Jolie Marketing as an LLC. This is under the state of Texas. All of that advice will be targeted towards that lens. We set up everything online. I believe it cost around $300 to get everything officially sorted and created, which starting up isn't too bad for a startup business cost. Totally doable for small business owners out there if you're starting from scratch and not rebranding like we are now.
And I think we did it all online, which was really helpful. You don't have to go in person to your Secretary of State or send in something over mail.
I thought you were gonna say secretary. After we set those up, then we got everything else started, our bank account, all of our contracts, anything we knew we would need, the fun or not fun stuff, under the Jolie Marketing name. So when we decided to become Mad Banana Marketing, it didn't make sense to completely start from scratch. That's not necessary. So when you're rebranding your own business, you don't have to scrap everything that you came from. You can, if you set it up as an LLC, then go into a DBA. So we filed for a DBA, like I said earlier, an assumed name. That basically lets you keep your existing LLC as is, while operating legally under a new business name too. It was about $25 online, but again, this is for Texas, so it can vary by state, so make sure you're checking that out if you're not in the Lone Star State.
I will say actually filing it and navigating the Texas SOS Direct system was pretty confusing and very old and outdated.
I need a new website.
There were times that we definitely thought we had to mail something in or mail in a check or go get physical checks.
I almost had to go get a checkbook, you guys.
But the good thing is we were able to figure it out and do it online. Now, again, we're not attorneys, we're not giving legal advice here, but we were able to figure it out and again, do the assumed name change online. And we were able to start our business a few years ago whenever we started Jolie also online. And I think it's pretty doable for a new business owner. So a little encouragement, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and starting an LLC, we think you can totally do it. But overall, if the process does feel a little confusing, you're not alone.
It's not you.
It's not you. And the good thing about the DBA is it doesn't change any existing materials you have out there under your legal name or the first name that you started with. It just lets you operate under a new name as well, which was great for all of our contracts. And like we said, our business bank account and everything. We were recently filling out a cyber insurance form, which if you're interested about business insurance and our take on that, let us know in the comments and we can do a separate video. But it asked us what was our legal filing name and what was our DBA if we had one. And so from now on, we'll fill in Jolie Marketing LLC as that legal entity name and Mad Banana Marketing as the DBA when it gives us the option. We'll also do that on taxes going forward, which we'll come back to taxes in a second.
So our first tip for entrepreneurs is don't feel pressured to get everything perfect the very first time. 80% is better than 0%. Rebranding and doing all of these things can kind of feel very tedious, maybe a little bit overwhelming, but if you're taking it step by step, I promise you're going to get to that desired solution by the end of it, because life rewards you for taking action. 80% of life is just showing up and doing the thing. We use the phrase SLC commonly in our business, which stands for
Simple, Lovable, Complete.
I never can remember, to be honest.
You get the vibe though.
I get the vibe. It's what you can go ahead with. It's the bare minimum version of what you're able to get away with, but you can still get away with it and it's still a good experience or product or whatever you're applying SLC to. So just take it day by day. You don't have to be perfect in every aspect. You're gonna learn as you go anyway, so might as well just start the learning process now.
Okay, so back to those tax tips that we mentioned a second ago. We wanted to go over a few things that we kind of learned the hard way our first year in business, and we would love to keep you from having to learn the hard way as well. So even if we can just help one of you avoid some of the mistakes we did or just clarify some things when it comes to taxes and some other kind of clerical items, we are gonna go through those now.
You know what we're not is CPA or tax attorney experts. So do not take this as legal advice, tax advice. Consult a CPA or a tax attorney for all of that. These are just some helpful high-level tips that we've learned from experience from and would prefer if you didn't.
Okay, first one, we're gonna go rapid fire. First one is quarterly estimated tax. Now, whenever you work a corporate like 9 to 5, like I worked for a few years, you get your taxes taken out of your paycheck every 2 weeks, or at least you probably do. But whenever you're self-employed, you're not getting paychecks, you're in charge of paying yourself. And at the end of our first year in business, we calculated how much tax we had owed from the previous year. It was a huge lump sum, which was really rough, but we paid it. And then we realized we had a penalty on that tax year because we had not been paying quarterly estimated taxes throughout the year. And we're never told to do that, but it's not a suggestion. It's definitely something the government expects. They want their money quarterly. So there's forms online you can use that the IRS gives so you can estimate what you actually need to pay for your quarterly estimated taxes, and then you pay it. And of course, if you pay over what you end up making, what you estimated, they'll send you your money back, although we don't recommend overpaying. And if you pay too much under, there could still be a penalty. But we will say the penalty is really small, and if you're a first-time, offender, they'll take it off if you kind of request that appeal.
We did use a CPA, and they were helpful in getting that penalty waived and informing us about this, but we would rather save you the trouble of having to deal with that.
Okay, tip number 2, let's talk deductions. So you've probably heard of, you can just write that off on your business.
It's a write-off, David.
But what we learned very quickly is that itemized deductions are only helpful and worthwhile if you can deduct over the standard deduction amount. So what do we mean by that? Basically, every year, the government sets the standard deduction limit, which I think this year, next year is around $15,000. And so without itemizing any of your deductions, you can automatically just take that standard deduction. So when you're just starting a new business and you have your overhead kept really low, like we did our first year,
we were remote, we were digital, and we were service-based. It was really easy starting out to keep expenses basically nothing besides the tools that we had to use and the project management services and platforms that we needed. It was extremely low.
So basically, if you're in the same boat, especially if you're just starting a new business, you might not have enough expenses to reach that standard deduction amount. And therefore, instead of itemizing and keeping this whole long list in an Excel, you can just take the standard deduction whenever a tax year comes around. Now, we will say right after you hit that, which especially if you're e-commerce or have to have a lot of inventory on hand, you could hit that a lot quicker. And of course, if you scale really quickly, which good for you, then you might hit that quicker as well. But after that, you should definitely be taking advantage of the itemized deductions and writing off things like your internet if you work from home, or your home office, or your car if you drive for work, things like that. But other, influencers with tax advice and the finance gurus out there have covered that better than we ever will. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, and the third and final tip kind of has to do with sales taxes. So if you're not familiar, sales taxes are passed down to the final consumer. So not every business and legal entity has to collect sales tax. So do your own research on if you need to be collecting and paying sales tax. But if you do, like we do for certain services, you pass that sales tax on to the consumer, but then you hold that sales tax until it's time to pay those quarterly sales taxes. So one, make sure you don't accidentally pay yourself what should be reserved for sales tax whenever the quarterly payment comes around. But also the other point I wanted to make is whenever I was in that dashboard a few years ago, there was something regarding a franchise tax questionnaire. And I remember disregarding it because we're not a franchise, so it didn't feel like it was relevant to us. And it was with a long list of other PDFs and links and documents that they have in this portal. We ended up getting a letter in the mail about it later that said if we don't fill out that franchise tax questionnaire by a certain amount of time, then we're gonna get some penalty. And I just remember thinking for the first time, like no one told us we needed to fill that out or that that document happened to be really important, but it was. And as business owners, you just have to be really on guard and, ready to do these minute small things that might not seem like a big deal, but they are.
So our second tip and our third tip, you're gonna get 2 and 3 together. The first one is don't rely too heavily on AI. The sentence could end there, but especially for legal stuff, it can be helpful to get a baseline, get a starting point together, but this is seriously one area where you need like real human expert help because ChatGPT was hallucinating so badly when we were asking some of these questions. And thank goodness we decided to make the investment into getting a CPA and getting some help because that's just one area you cannot afford to mess up on at all. So please make sure that you account for that in your startup costs to invest in getting expert legal help when it comes to those kind of questions. And takeaway number 3 is to piggyback off what Madison said is that sometimes you just have these random questions that you really don't understand or don't know a lot about. Luckily, my mom's an entrepreneur and she lives in the same state as us. So we asked her about that franchise tax question and she helped us solve that problem. Mentorship and people in your community who are going through the same thing as you need to build that in to when you're starting out your business. It's so important to be able to have people with more experience than you so you can ask them questions and people who have about the same experience as you so you guys can go along and figure out things together. That's something we're really passionate about and one of the reasons why when we rebranded to Mad Banana, we want to form a community to help educate young women entrepreneurs, give them advice, answer your random questions, or connect you with somebody or a resource that can help you answer the question that you need help with.
Okay, let's shift gears into something a little more fun, long-form content strategy. This is something we honestly never thought about doing in our Jolie era, but we had an aha moment recently that really put everything into perspective for us.
To be honest, the aha moment was that we're long-winded girlies and we've tried our hand at short-form content and never really felt like we really could make it stick. Our videos were always too long and we wanted to try something different. So we thought, why don't we get into YouTube or some sort of long-form content? Then we come to find out the statistic that YouTube is the second largest search engine.
No way.
Behind Google? I know, dude. And we're a search engine optimization agency. Like this felt like such a what? Why are we not applying this to our business? Yeah, completely. So then now we've decided that Anna doesn't know what the next line is. And so much of YouTube SEO is pretty much the same thing that we do as an SEO agency on our clients' websites. From data-backed content, keyword research, titles, descriptions, optimization, that's all YouTube SEO too. So not only can we do it for ourselves, we can do it for our clients too. I remember that one video of us back in the day when we were choosing between short or long form video in some short form content trend, and we literally both hopped into the long form content and didn't click. I don't know why. But we should have seen that as a sign a couple of years ago.
We should have seen this coming.
I know. In today's day and age, you basically can't get away with not being on Instagram and TikTok. So we had to do both.
But once we realized that we wanted to add long form content strategy in, we knew we needed help because we were running our own business, still had all of our current clients and new clients. And editing long form videos is not for the weak. So if you're out there doing this on your own, good for you. You're doing great.
Kudos.
And on top of the rebrand, we just knew it was not realistic for us to do it all. So we went and found a few different companies that did YouTube SEO, which there really aren't that many out there. The first company we talked to, we loved. They totally got our vision, but the quote that they gave us for the amount of videos that we needed was simply not in budget, and we're not even knocking them. Like, we know the value that they would have brought and totally respect that and know the long-term value that YouTube can provide. However, our budget simply could not afford it. So we thought our dream was DOA, and the other companies didn't work out that well. But then a few weeks later, we still built out our content strategy in the meantime. And then we found a different company that can edit our videos with a budget we can work with. And so here we are.
Yay! And this brings us to our fourth tip of today's takeaway tips: invest in a marketing mix. Maybe YouTube isn't in the cards for you right away. If long form content editing isn't one of your passions and you don't really feel like you have the time to manage it on top of running and starting your own business or rebranding your own business, that's okay. But also, your entire strategy shouldn't rest on the fact that you're hoping your Instagram video goes viral. The StoryBrand roadmap tasks has some incredible foundational pieces that make up a healthy marketing mix you can try and implement, from SEO, local listings management, an email drip campaign, getting involved on some sort of social media platform, and especially in-person or networking, community-based in real life events. But remember, it's better to be consistent on 2 to 3 platforms versus half-assing 5 to 6. Trust us, if you try and keep up with too many, especially if you don't really like doing some of them, you're going to burn out very quickly. So think really hard when you're doing your audience avatar. Where are they showing up? And invest your time and resources in creating a really good strategy around 2 to 3 of those platforms. Then eventually you'll get to build out a healthy marketing mix with a lot of touch points down the line. And that's okay. Now to my favorite part of the video, let's talk about the website refresh, because this is something that I've been so excited to talk about. So technically, we already had a Mad Banana website live already. Long story short, we tried to start a business book club when we tried to revive Mad Banana a couple of years ago, but it didn't really match the current vibe.
We did all of that work in the first few episodes to write our story brand and come up with our audience avatar. So now it was time to kind of embed all of that into the new website and update some visuals and some other stuff throughout the site as well.
Our plan was, going into this, we don't need to build our forever website. It doesn't have to be a final stage website. We just needed something strong, solid, starting point to launch our rebrand, and then we can build and expand upon it. So we started with a baseline of home, about, contact, all services, with 2 individual service pages being website design and SEO to explain our services a little bit more in depth, and a portfolio page, plus a few landing pages that are going to help make the Jolie marketing redirect a lot more seamless, and that way we don't have to worry about anything getting lost in translation out there.
And let me just say, seeing all of these pages kind of come to life really was a big moment for us in seeing progress on this rebrand. So much of what we have done so far is just the foundational behind the scenes work.
Whenever we saw in our project management system we use Monday, moving it from not started to working on it felt like things were actually happening. This is it, we're rebranding, we're about to go public. It felt very exciting. And for our 5th and final takeaway tip of the video, make sure you have a manageable plan to add content to your website over time. If you start with a simple 5-pager, then you can plan to add a keyword research page a month, a couple of blog posts over the quarter. These pages can be blog pages, service pages, or service area pages. It really is totally up to you.
And if you're not DIYing your website, your web or SEO provider should be helping you create a plan like this. That's what we do for all of our SEO clients. So if you don't have someone helping out with this, we'd love to work with you. Send us a message.
So timeline-wise, we're still on track with our 4-week goal for phase 1, so yay! The DBA was easy to handle, and even though it took a few extra weeks to find the right long-form video partner, we were glad we were able to use that time to really come up with some other strategies and brainstorm video ideas, so that way, as soon as we're ready to film, we were ready to go.
The website refresh is going to take a little longer than we originally estimated, but we'll talk about that more in the next video. Cost-wise, the DBA cost us around $25 to file. If you're starting a new business from scratch, scratch, it might be a few $100s depending on the business entity that you go with and depending on the state that you're filing in. And our long form content editing is around $250 per video, which we would not have been able to comfortably afford in our first year or two of business. So again, YouTube does not need to be in your marketing mix right off the bat. TikTok, Instagram, and even YouTube are completely free if you're doing it yourself and editing and posting and managing it all on your own.
Also, bonus tip, if you can't afford a full-time social media manager, we would at least recommend meeting for a one-time strategy session with somebody in that industry. So that way you're not just throwing content out in the void and posting without a plan. And of course, we're always going to recommend investing in SEO as your foundation and then layering on other marketing channels as you grow. SEO is truly the main strategy that compounds on itself over time. And that's the thing we believe is going to be the best strategy for any business starting out or rebranding. So the total cost right now is sitting at about $100 so far, with future investments being around $1,000 a month for 4 long-form edited YouTube videos.
So that's it for episode 3. If this was helpful, give us a like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of phase 1, plus phases 2 and 3, and a bonus backstory video and a ton of more helpful entrepreneur tips along the way. In the next video, we're going to be going over brand guidelines and actually refreshing the Mad Banana website. So you'll get more of the visual side and see how it all starts to come together.
And as we say around here, get mad.
Go bananas.
Best time to wear a striped sweater is all the time.